Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn, and today we are talking with Mary Cook. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
you're kind of cutting out a little.
Okay, sorry. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your book. It's called New Dawn.
Yes, yes. It's the first book in a new series that I started. I really went out on a limb with this one because it's not my normal genre. Usually like to write things that make you think about what's going on in my head or maybe scare you a little bit. But I don't know, felt like trying my hand at a little bit of science fiction. And so that's where this came about. I don't know, anybody ever watched the old series Falling Skies? So I kind of got the idea from I don't know, kind of idea from that a little bit, with the aliens and the humans interacting. And I have one group who they're only coming here to destroy the earth. That's their whole goal. The other group is to get them back for trying to do the same thing to their own home. And they're
Yeah.
siding with the humans. They're helping them out.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's really interesting that you write in different genres. So a lot of writers are afraid to cross over and try different genres like that, and I think mainly it's because of the publishing. A lot of publishers would discourage people from writing in different genres because they want one solid um, uh, group of fans who are only looking for one genre. But I think nowadays people are so interested in so many different things that writing in different genres is an amazing opportunity. And to be able to cross over in different genres as a writer is really amazing too, to be able to try your hand at different things.
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah. One of
and
my newest ones that I'm trying out is Lit RPG.
okay, tell us a little bit about
It's
that.
it's so fun because okay, I like to play video games, and so I kind of mirrored this with one of my favorite video games, and basically the girl just gets sucked into the game, and I try my hand at a bit of humor, saying things like, the difference between real life and the game is when you're flying on your mountain, you can actually fall off. Things like that. You get hungry, you get tired, you get thirsty. If you fight, you actually get hurt. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I write a lot of different genres. I got horror, thriller, even delved into romance a little bit. Not so much my thing, but I have.
But I think that's amazing, especially for all authors to be able to try to write in different genres, even if you don't end up publishing all of them. Just to be able to practice writing in different genres on your own, just to grow as a writer.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use a lot of the same techniques for different genres. I mean, you can use the same outline to write a romance novel as you would for writing a sci-fi novel. You use the same outline, even in a slightly different genre. And I think that being inspired to write different things is what will connect you with all different types of readers.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
do you use an outline? Do you
Uh,
use a specific outline,
Most
right?
of the
Or
time, I'm just a pantser.
okay.
But I got for Christmas about a year or two ago. That's not last Christmas, before last. I got a writer. No, Save a Cat writes a book,
What's
and
so interesting, because I just did an interview with another author who literally had that book right by her desk.
yeah, I just put it up. I think I put it up. Might be no, it's right here. Yeah, right here,
See,
never
now
far
now
away.
I have to get it.
It's pretty great. As a matter of fact, I'm working on book 2 of my series right now, and I thought, I think this is a good place for the end. So I'm outlining a future horror book, and I get to the part where it says the middle or muddle, and I thought, oh no, that's what I did. So I had to pull it back out and get busy writing again, because I realized, of course, I was right in the middle. And if I don't stick right to my outline, I can always refer back to it and think, oh yeah, I forgot I was going to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in some books you need an outline and some you don't. So I mean, if it's a subject that you are passionate about, that you know a lot about, sometimes an outline isn't necessary. Just knowing what's going to happen and being able to kind of free write your way through it is an amazing opportunity. I personally am an outline fanatic, so I have to
Yeah.
everything and what's going to happen before I write it. But everybody's different. And not even that, but when you are writing in different genres, you're going to have a different process for every book.
Yeah.
As far as your process goes, though, do you write every day? Do you only write when you're inspired? When do you write? Like, what is that process like for you?
Usually Sundays I don't, because church and family. But the rest of the time, yeah, I'm usually right here in the dungeon. Yeah, I get up early in the morning, retired. I don't have to do this. I do this of my own free will. I get up and come in here, and I start off with Twitter, Facebook, and checking everything else, and spend most of the day clacking away, trying to pour the words out of my head onto paper.
Okay, that's good. And you have a specific place that you write? You said it's your dungeon?
Yeah, it's a dungeon. Well, okay. One of the things that got me started writing was helping someone else with their book and getting it published. And in the book, there's dragons and stuff, which I'm a huge dragon freak. So I have like dragons and posters and statues and everything all over my office. So I painted the walls gray, and everything, the other tones are like a darker gray. And I do have posters and other things all over my office for dungeons. It's great for my kids because they know what to get me for Christmas. But so I call it my dungeon. Well, I wasn't the one who called it that. My husband started that. Oh, she's coming out of the dungeon. So yeah, right here,
we're coming back.
I have a huge desk, in case my co-author friend, daughter-in-law, comes over and runs to write with me. We can sit here together and write books at the same time. And it's really fun because, you always have this moment where you're just like, oh, let me read this to you. And there's already somebody right there. It's just like, but it's always just
And I never thought about that before, actually having a writing session with another writer right there.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about, incorporating beta readers for your books and stuff like that when it comes to the revising process, but I never thought about writing with another writer and just kind of having that writing session together. I feel like that would be a great motivational tool, because that way you're not going to get distracted and stop writing and go do something else. If you have another writer right there with you, you guys just motivate each other by sitting and writing. And that's literally blows my mind because I've never thought of that before.
Yeah, well, a lot of mornings will find us sitting together with coffee and I have a notebook, and I'm writing down ideas that we come up with for future books, or I'll talk about the book that I'm working on, and she'll throw out suggestions like, is that really what's going to happen? Or how about this? She's like, ooh, that's a genius idea. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I wish everybody had somebody close by that they could write with.
Right. I mean, that sounds like an amazing idea.
Yeah.
Do you guys set like deadlines for certain books, for certain steps of the process, or do you guys just kind of go with flow?
Well, first of all, let me say she's not here that often.
Oh,
She's ready to drop, so she's pretty much spending time at home doing the nesting thing that new mothers do.
gotcha.
Uh, but deadlines. Every now and then, I'll have this moment of insanity where I'll put up a pre-order, and the book's not done. So,
That's the perfect deadline.
can't beat that. Yeah. So I actually have two books. One's due the 23rd of February. The other's the 28th of February. And the one that's due the 23rd, I'm co-authoring with. So I was over there today and I said, you have about a week to finish your part. Baby or no baby, get busy.
But yeah, a pre-order button would definitely give you guys a solid deadline there.
Yeah. Other than that, no, I do. My editor says you're prolific. I write a lot, and I have a lot of ideas flowing all the time. Let's see, 7 romance books, a trilogy of fantasy, another spin-off from that fantasy coming out, and I think 6 other books. I don't know. I've published like 14, 15 books in the past year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I write a lot. I get a lot of ideas, and it's just like I just can't get them out onto the paper. I wish if I typed faster, maybe I could, but I don't. So yeah, I just have to get them out of my head and onto paper.
I completely understand that. I have about 40 different books outlined that I just don't have the time to sit down and write through. And that's I guess my biggest hurdle is not having the time or the space to write, because I have so many ideas in me that I want to write and I want to get down, but it's figuring out your schedule and being able to have that time to do so. But it sounds like you have plenty of time
Yeah,
to.
well, being retired, I do babysit my granddaughter though, and when the baby comes, so that's another deadline. I got like 2 weeks of freedom left, and then I'm going to be watching my grandson every day. So, and knowing her, she'll be at work the next day. She had her daughter. You know what she wanted to do? She wanted to go back to school. She was just graduating high school. Yeah, she wanted to go back to school. I need to go to class. And then it's just like, no, you just had a baby.
You gotta give yourself a little time after having a baby.
Yeah. So she waited till the next day.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do have that deadline looming over my head. So I do have, when he comes, I'll have a lot less time to write, because you know how babies are. They're kind of demanding of your attention.
At least in the beginning.
Not that it'll be hard.
So as far as your writing process, so you write a lot, but what is the most difficult part of the writing process for you in any of the books that you write?
Probably like keeping it flowing, keeping the flow going, because I get the idea, but I always reach this point, just like, I don't know if I can go on. And, like I said, that the muddle, the part where you're just like, okay, I've got one book that I've got like 30,000 words, and just like pushed it aside because I thought, it's boring. I got bored with it. And that's my main problem, is I get bored with it and pick up another project and start on that.
Gotcha.
So just muddling through and finishing what I've started.
Yeah, once you get to that middle part, it's like you really have to know what exactly is going to happen in each individual scene, because if not, it's very easy to get bored, to get to that point where you're like, okay, I have no idea what's supposed to happen next, and then you kind of lose the inspiration for it. But I think if you go back and revisit it and you kind of think through, okay, what could happen here, and then be able to finish that outline with knowing exactly what's going to happen throughout the middle parts, to be able to persevere through that would be the best option. And I definitely want to make sure that any any other writers who are watching this that have that same problem know how to persevere through it. I mean, it happens all the time. You get halfway through a book and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do?"
Yeah.
um,
Let me tell you.
that book.
Yeah. Yeah. I reached that point with this one and it's just like, okay, what did I decide to do next? Because I read a section, I write down what I'm going to do. And then I read another section, right? So I just pick up, I have a notebook next to me. I pick it up and look at, okay, what am I going to do next? Keep it. That helps. That helps
Yeah.
to keep it going.
Definitely, and I think that that book is really popular right now for writers, and I think it's a really helpful tool because it. I think from what I've read about it, it walks you through those different steps of the writing process and really helps you kind of get through all those major hurdles that a lot of writers deal with.
Right.
Um, but as far as your writing process, is there something that you enjoy more than others? Is it what part of the writing process is probably the most enjoyable for you?
I think it's starting the new book. It's the idea that blooms in my head because most of them are born from dreams that I had the night before. So it's the process of just starting. It's just like, oh, I got this great idea, and I just like get in there and start typing. And I think it's when the beginning, starting it off and getting the idea out.
And
That's
that's so interesting because I think that's what a lot of writers struggle with. They have the idea, but it's starting the process that can be really difficult sometimes because you don't know how to start or you're just afraid to start. But I think a lot of writers struggle with that. Like what motivates you to really start that process? Like you have an idea, but what what's in your mind that makes you say, okay, I really want to sit down and get this out on paper?
Well, the book, the sequel that I'm working on right now, Dawn of Inception, I started it and I had an outline done for it. And then I did another outline and I changed the beginning. So even if I got the idea down, I can always go back and change it.
And I think that's great for aspiring writers to know. I think what a lot of people, why a lot of writers fear to start the process is that once they write it down, it's permanent. And it's not, because your first draft is going to be messy, it's going to be rough, and that's the whole purpose of it. And you go back and you make it better every time you revise it. And I think that a lot of writers probably don't think about that in the beginning. In the beginning, they're just thinking about getting that idea in their head out onto paper. And once they see it in writing, they start critiquing it already and they start kind
Yeah.
of trying to edit and revise it as they go. And I think it's really important for writers to know to separate the writing process, to
Yeah.
do your rough draft and only the rough draft, and then you revise.
Yeah. Well, because, I know another problem a lot of writers have is writer's block, or they get in the middle of the story, just like, it's gone. So I go back and like reread chapters to catch me back up on what I'm, especially since I usually I've probably got 10 books going right now at the same time that I'm working on. So it's easy to like get lost in the books and lose the flow. So I just go back and reread it. Actually, I make Microsoft Word read it to me.
But I think that's really good though, because I think a lot of the times we read what we have written in the mindset of a writer, not the mindset of a reader. So to have it read to you kind of changes that mindset. So you can really think about it in the mindset of a reader. And that way you kind of use that to know what's going to happen next and to encourage you to write the next chapter. And I
It
think that's,
catches a lot of typos too.
yeah. I think that can really help with a lot of things. You have typos, you have your flow, you have sentence structure, like a lot of those things you can catch if it's read to you rather than you reading it with the mindset as a writer. And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah, and that the another thing I that it helps me with is who said that, you know, and remembering just because in my head I know this was said by this character, it doesn't, you can't see it in the book because you didn't highlight that area.
right, because you didn't say who said it.
Yeah,
No, I think that even MS Word or even having another person read it to you is extremely helpful, no matter what part of the process you're at. I mean, if you have writer's block, if you are struggling with the middle of the book and don't know what's going to happen next, if you're just getting started but you don't have enough confidence to keep going, anything like that, I think having somebody read what you've already written so far to you can be an extremely powerful part of the process. Um, was there any part of is there any part of writing for you that you want to encourage others to try as far as a writing process? Like, do you do anything different when you're crossing over genres?
Well, I read different genres and writing different genres. Of course, I always have a tendency to want to make it a little bit spookier because that's my go-to. But just to try to keep in mind, what it is you're working on. Working on a sci-fi, I'm not going to have some guy jumping out of the shadows trying to, slit their throat or something.
Unless it's
I,
an
I
alien.
might, I might.
I
Yeah. Just keeping in mind that allowing the characters to basically become a part of you. It's like I've got this guy standing over my shoulder here saying, "Listen, that's not what I'm going to do." Oh, your voice is gone. I can't hear you. Hello?
There you are.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was agreeing with you. I was saying that it's really good to put yourself in the shoes of your characters, so
Right.
that you can have them tell you what they want to happen next, or in things like that, to be able to really push the story through.
Well, okay. One of the books I wrote, the horror, uh, no outline. It was not edited. It was written for my own personal thing. Um, the cover I was pre-made, and at the end of the book, I was going to kill off the main character. But I went into work. It was when I was still working. Went into work, and it's like he's following around the kitchen saying, "But wait, let me live." And finally, I was just like, okay. Went home, brought him back to life, and he was fine. He was fine.
The life of a writer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I trust me. I go through my outlines for my fiction books, and I create this whole bio for each character. So I know these characters inside and out. And it's you get connected to these characters because to you they're real. And when you are putting them in a story, you really have to put yourself in their shoes and know what they're going to feel, and how they're going to react to certain things, and really be able to understand each character's place in the story and how they view things. And I think the whole process of writing fiction books and creating those characters is so in depth that those characters really become a part of you.
Well, somebody asked me how I keep them straight, and I said, I also can tell my children apart.
My mother goes through the list of all the children until she gets to the right
Yes,
one.
yes.
Like,
I may be calling my daughter by her sister's name, but I know it's her.
but it's a whole process. You really get yourself lost in an entire different world, and this whole different situation with different people, but you know them front and back because you created them from scratch. And I think
Yes,
the whole
yes.
process is absolutely beautiful. um how do your characters change between the different genres that you write? Do you, let's say you're writing a horror book and you have characters who are afraid, you have your victims, but then you switch over to writing a romance novel where the characters are very emotional and very hopeful for the future. Like, how do you kind of change your mindset in between writing two different characters?
Well, my characters take on like personalities of people that have been in my life
Okay.
or things that I've been through. A lot of, like, I was trying to explain to my cover designer this new dog because I just changed the cover, and she said, "Well, explain to me who the main character is." And I started talking. I said, "Oh my gosh, she's you." So, it's easy. She goes, "Oh yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, yeah." They, it's like I know she lives in this spot right here, and she's not going to cross over to this spot. And just keeping in mind that they're totally different people. And like I said, I do have a tendency sometimes to try to pull in the dark because it's just like I write a lot of darkness. And my neighbor says, "Where does that come from?"
Trust me, I understand. Everyone says, "Oh, you're the most positive person," but I write paranormal fiction on the side. Like demons are trying to kill people and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like, why do you write this? Like, where does this come from? Like my nightmares? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you ever write different genres in the same day, or do you stick with one type of genre or one specific book each day?
Oh no, huh? No, I skip about. I
Okay.
skip back and forth. Yesterday, what did I work on yesterday? Oh, I worked on a horror, and then I picked up my lit RPG, and I bounce around like that.
Gosh.
It just depends on what mood I'm in, I think. Uh,
And when it comes to writing your books, do you write them from beginning to end, or do you write different scenes out of order?
beginning to end. I don't know how the world people can do that. I know people do, but it's just the concept escapes me.
I am the same
I
way.
also do not read the end of the book before I start it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And that's what I love about the writing process. That is different for every single writer. I mean, I have
Mhm.
talked to writers who write just the major plot scenes and then they go back and they fill in everything later. And I have talked to people who say, you can't write the book until you know what the ending is going to be. And some people are the exact opposite. I mean, I personally, when I'm writing, I have to go from beginning to end. I have to have an outline, but a lot of those times I will leave the ending blank because I want to kind of see how the story unfolds as I write it and then decide how it's going to end afterwards. And I love how it's different for every writer. And
Well,
I think that's one of the most important things for every writer to know is that no matter what process you choose, no matter what you're doing, you're right. If it works for
yeah.
you, that
I
then what you want
I
to do.
do have two that I know the ending of, that I've decided on the ending. One of them is the horror, and another one I just thought, and I got this, I don't know where I got this idea, but it was my daughter-in-law and I talking, and I got this idea. She goes, "Well, you've got a great beginning, you got a great end. What are you going to do in the middle?" I don't know. And so that story is still sitting there.
That's where you kind of have to just start brainstorming there. Like, wait, if this were to happen for this character, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? And how would that unfold? That's what I always like to ask myself whenever I create a new fiction story for my paranormal fiction. I have the setting, I have my characters. I say, okay, this is my major plot point. Now, what is the very worst possible thing that could happen to this character if this happened? Or if they
Hmm.
went to this place, and that's where I kind of get my middle stuff from and be able to work off of it from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of have to ask yourself different questions and ask yourself what would the character do if this happened, and that's where I get a lot of my little plots that happen throughout the book and how they tie together.
Well, in this, right, the cat book, uh, he says in there, "Don't be afraid to kill off somebody."
Hmm.
And if it's going to be a huge thing, make it a huge, don't just like, and then she got a tardy slip. Make it huge, make it huge. And I kind of had an epiphany because I like get on Netflix and just
Get
sit
lost
there.
binging.
Yeah, binging, binging, and then I'm just like the box of Kleenex is just like killed off so and so, and then I one night I was just like, it's okay if I kill that character because it happens, and not just on TV, it happens in real life.
Mhm.
People die, so yeah.
And when people die in real life, it's extremely emotional. It changes everybody else's life when when they lose somebody. And I think that is the impact that your readers need to have if you kill off a character in your book. Like, they need to be able to feel that. So yes, I completely agree. If you kill off a character, if you do something drastic, you need to write it drastically. You need to be able
Yeah.
to make your readers feel that impact of what just happened.
Well, I know we probably fringing on time, but my horror book that I told you about that I wrote is inspired by true events. In this book, 5 people murder a young woman, and her ghost comes back and takes her vengeance. 5 people were involved in the murder of my daughter. So that writing that helped me to have closure on her and to realize that everybody has a backstory.
Absolutely. And I'm really sorry for your loss, but that is exactly the kind of impact you want your readers to have. Like, even without saying on the cover that it's based on a true story, when your readers are reading your books, they should be able to place themselves in that situation and know that it can happen in real life, or it did happen in real life.
Yeah.
And basing stories off of real life events, I mean, that is the best way to start any story, because it automatically makes the story real, and it makes the entire book a different world that readers can jump into and honestly feel what is happening. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah. My daughter wasn't happy with the
When
ending.
does that book come out? Is that book already out?
Oh, it's already out. It's one of my first books. It's The Mists of Stone Lake. It's audio, paperback, and Kindle.
The Mist. Wait, Mist.
Mists, plural, of Stone Lake. I to give you an idea, the pre-made cover, that was the fake name she had on it, so I stuck with that. Wrote the book to the cover. But in the back, for anybody who's interested, is the story of what happened. In my own eyes. I wasn't there, so I don't know everything. And the trial is still going on.
Gotcha.
But it helped. It helped. My daughter says, I wish, it's a good book, but I wish he would have died in the end. All those people need to die. So
yeah. Well, yeah. That's what you kind of figure would happen if this ghost comes back for revenge. Is she going to kill off the 5 people that murdered her? Like,
well, that was the whole objective of the book, but her mother gets involved in the whole thing, and it takes a completely different plot change. Gotcha. And what happens to the main character is even more devastating than what was ever thought of in the beginning.
Well, I just bought it, so don't ruin the ending for me.
Okay.
I literally just hit order now. So
well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's kind of graphic, I will tell you that. I have my editor sometimes just like, she has to edit in pieces because I do sometimes get a little bit too graphic in some of my descriptions. She says, you're really good at that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. That's a good problem to
have. Yeah.
All right. Well, I am excited to read this. It will be here on Monday. And okay. And thank you for meeting with me. Is there anything else that you want to say to aspiring writers, or even writers who have been writing for a long time?
Well, the only thing I can say is don't quit. Don't listen to those who say, you can't do it, because you're only if the reason you're doing it is to impress somebody else, you're not doing it for the right reason. I write because there's so much in my head that needs to come out, and I enjoy it. I remember being, you know, little telling, making up stories to my sister when we're in bed and supposed to be sleeping. So this is something I've been doing my whole life, but I didn't actually write my first book until not quite 2 years ago. And so you're never too old.
Yeah, and once you get writing, it's like you can't stop.
No. Yeah, just don't quit. Don't quit. And, find somebody who lifts you up and stick with them. My amazing friend Lynn Viviers, who is my editor and has designed a lot of my covers, she just like pulls me up. She's so amazing. And Nikki helps to keep me lifted up. And my daughter, the very first thing, because I sent her a page and she said, Mom, you got to write this book. So you need to hang out with people like that who just say, you're good, you're doing it, but be open to the people who say, this is what you need to do in addition to that. Because somebody, another great friend of mine, she writes Battle of the Wolves, my favorite book. She basically, the first book she read of mine, the first beta read, I almost quit writing. I was crying. But since then, we've become really close, and she doesn't pull punches. And you got to have somebody who you can still be friends with who isn't going to pull the punches.
Absolutely.
They just want you to be better.
Yeah, I mean, writing in itself is a solo act, but motivation isn't. When it comes to motivation, you need to have that support system. You need to have those people that lift you up and encourage you. You also need to have the people who are not going to lie to you, who are going to give you constructive criticism and feedback on your books as well. And I think having that rounded out support system is what every writer needs every step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for meeting with me.
Sure, I subscribed to your channel. So
thank you. Well, you're on the channel now, so.
And I'm going to put the link to my author page and see if other people will subscribe to it, and it's like blow up your channel to everybody.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Thanks for taking the time to talk to an old woman.
No. Well, I really enjoyed it. And I now have a new book that I need to read come Monday. So.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. You have a good day.
Thanks, you too.